The daytime television world was caught off guard when news broke that Sherri Shepherd's daytime run was coming to an end. For some viewers, it was simply another example of how difficult it has become to survive in modern television. But for others, the announcement opened the door to a much bigger conversation, one that stretches back years and touches on some of the most debated moments of Sherri's career. And that's exactly why people can't stop talking about it. Because whenever Sherri Shepherd's name starts trending, the discussion rarely stays focused on one headline. Instead, it pulls together old controversies, public feuds, legal battles, and one question that has followed her for years. Has Sherri been unfairly judged, or are people only now paying attention to a pattern they missed before? The timing of the latest headlines couldn't have been more interesting. As news spread across social media, thousands of viewers immediately began revisiting the circumstances that helped launch Sherri into daytime television's spotlight. While many celebrated her success, others started bringing up a chapter of television history that remains surprisingly emotional for longtime viewers. And that chapter begins with Wendy Williams. When Wendy's health struggles forced her away from her iconic daytime show, the television industry suddenly faced a major challenge. Producers needed guest hosts to keep the program running, and among those brought in was Sherri Shepherd. At first, many viewers welcomed the change. Sherri was already a familiar television personality with years of experience in entertainment. She had charisma, energy, and a loyal fan base. On paper, she seemed like a natural fit. But as Wendy's absence stretched on, something unexpected happened. Many viewers started seeing Sherri as more than just a temporary replacement. Before long, conversations emerged about whether she could eventually take over a larger role in daytime television. As the months passed, speculation intensified. Then came the announcement that would divide audiences. Sherri would receive her own daytime talk show. For supporters, it was the opportunity of a lifetime finally arriving. They saw a hardworking entertainer achieving a career milestone after years in the industry. For critics, however, the situation felt different. Some believed the transition happened too close to Wendy's decline. Others felt uncomfortable seeing a format that appeared similar to one Wendy had spent years building. Social media quickly became divided between those celebrating Sherri's success and those who felt loyalty to Wendy Williams. The debate became even more complicated because Sherri consistently maintained that she and Wendy were never close personal friends. From her perspective, there was no betrayal. From the perspective of some viewers, however, emotions don't always follow logic, and that emotional divide never fully disappeared. Years later, people are still arguing about it. But while the Wendy conversation remained active, another chapter of Sherri's life was quietly resurfacing online. A chapter involving her marriage, a surrogate pregnancy, and a legal dispute that generated national headlines. Long before the controversy emerged, Sherri had been very open about her desire to expand her family. She spoke publicly about fertility struggles and the emotional challenges that came with them. Viewers followed her journey through interviews and television appearances, often expressing sympathy and support. Eventually, she and her then-husband pursued surrogacy after facing difficulties conceiving naturally. At the time, it appeared to be a hopeful new beginning, but behind the scenes, the marriage itself was beginning to unravel. As reports emerged about growing tensions in the relationship, what had once been a private family matter suddenly became part of a very public legal dispute. The situation attracted enormous media attention because it involved complex questions surrounding surrogacy agreements, parental responsibilities, and the legal obligations connected to those arrangements. Almost immediately, public opinion split into two camps. Some people believed Sherri was being treated unfairly during an already painful breakdown of her marriage. Others questioned how a process that had reportedly involved extensive planning could become so contentious later. As court proceedings continued, the case generated headlines across entertainment media. Legal experts weighed in. Commentators debated the implications. Social media turned every update into a fresh argument. Even today, years later, many people still disagree about what actually happened and who deserves criticism. And that's where another voice entered the conversation. Sherri's former husband, Lamar Sally. Following the breakup, both sides publicly shared very different perspectives on the relationship. Lamar's comments attracted attention because they challenged the public image many viewers associated with Sherri. He suggested that there was more happening behind the scenes than audiences realized. Supporters of Sherri dismissed those claims as the frustrations of a difficult divorce. Critics, however, saw his statements differently. Some began connecting those comments to other controversies surrounding Sherri's career and public life. Whether those connections were fair or not became another source of endless debate. And that's when something interesting happened. People stopped looking at individual incidents. Instead, they started looking at the bigger picture. Online discussions increasingly focused on what some viewers described as a recurring theme throughout Sherri's career. Critics argued that she consistently prioritized opportunities and professional advancement. Supporters responded by saying that's exactly what successful people are supposed to do. After all, ambition isn't a crime. Many pointed out that countless entertainers make difficult career decisions every year without facing the same level of scrutiny. Others argued that public perception matters just as much as intent. And that difference in interpretation explains why conversations about Sherri remain so heated. The reality is that both sides often view the same events through completely different lenses. One side sees determination, the other sees calculation. One side sees resilience, the other sees opportunism. Neither perspective has fully won the argument, and that's probably why the story continues to generate attention. What's often forgotten in these discussions is how much adversity Sherri faced long before any of these controversies emerged. Building a career in entertainment is notoriously difficult. Success rarely arrives quickly, and sustaining it can be even harder. For years, Sherri worked across television, comedy, and hosting roles while trying to establish herself in an extremely competitive industry. Her supporters believe that history matters. They argue that focusing only on controversies ignores decades of hard work and persistence. Critics acknowledge her accomplishments but maintain that public figures should also be held accountable for decisions that affect other people. Both arguments continue to exist side by side, and neither one appears likely to disappear anytime soon. Now, with her daytime television chapter coming to a close, many people are wondering what happens next. Will this be remembered as the end of an era? Will Sherri reinvent herself once again? Or will future conversations continue to revolve around the same controversies that have followed her for years? The answer remains unclear. What is clear, however, is that Sherri Shepherd remains one of the most polarizing figures in daytime television. Some viewers see an inspiring success story, others see a more complicated legacy, and perhaps that's the real reason people keep returning to these headlines. Not because everyone agrees, but because nobody does. Years after the Wendy Williams debate, years after the legal battles, and years after countless online arguments, audiences are still asking the same question. Who is the real Sherri Shepherd? The determined entertainer who overcame obstacles to achieve her dream? Or the controversial public figure whose critics believe there's more to the story? Depending on who you ask, you'll get a completely different answer. And that's exactly why this conversation refuses to fade away.